Welcome to another episode of the Lords of Consciousness videocast. I am your host, Clint-culberson, coming to you from the sunny deserts of Arizona. Today I'm joined by a brilliant human being coming all the way from Toronto, Ontario, Canada, Mr. David-al-Badri. How are you, my man?
I'm great. How are you?
Good. David he's the man behind the YouTube channel Angry Hippie. And which is a great name for his whole journey, and it's actually, well, once you get to know David, you can hear a little bit about his story, and he recently came out with this series called the A Species with Amnesia. And I mean, here, hold on, I wrote down just a couple of topics. Okay, consciousness, human origins, ancient civilizations, political corruption, environmental disasters, psychedelics, marijuana, magic mushrooms, DMT, quantum physics, unified field, global flood, global flood, sacred geometry, human ascension, the Illuminati, secret space program, underground cities, indigenous wisdom, the Anunnaki, Venus Project, resource-based economies, morphic resonance. I mean, and the list goes on. Now, there's more than 29 episodes, correct? Is it 30?
It's exactly 29.
Okay.
You got it.
29 episodes, and they're all about like between 7 and 15 minutes, we'll say. So they're these bite-sized, really cool format. But basically, David will blow your mind. I mean, he goes from the origins of human history and takes us through the evolution of what the hell is going on, at least the best that we can, piece together right now. And of course, it's much deeper than any of us can ever conjure. But David, talk about the process of how the hell you came to even create this.
Well, I smoked a lot of weed and I had a lot of self-reflection in alone time. Basically, I had to write a list, and that list had to make sense in a manner in which each idea would build upon the next in a way that anyone could follow. Because the problem, and I'm sure you understand this, is the fact that when you try to introduce any one of these ideas to someone who's never been exposed to it, it's hard to really talk about it without mentioning prior steps to that bit of information. And I think it is a process to get if we're going to talk about, let's say, for example, higher dimensional entities that are responsible for the creation of DNA, we would have to take a step back and go through some steps before we even get to that topic, because that's just going to sound like nonsense. So I wrote a list, and the list started out with money. I was trying to find what's the main source of the world's problems. It's human greed, and what facilitates that human greed, it's the money systems that are presented to us as a species. And I came to that conclusion just solely based off this one fact. The one reason why we cannot change our method of obtaining power and electricity, the one reason why we cannot reconstruct our educational systems, and the one reason why we cannot reconstruct our architectural cities, the architectural design of our city designs, is because it's too costly. And I was thinking, who determines the value of anything, truly? I mean, we have our economy, and if anyone studies economy, you'll understand in its aspects. But if you actually step back and just look at that economy, it in and of itself is like a mental illusion, because it only exists in the minds of human beings. Like, no other animal on this planet, no other living thing on this planet operates off of an economy. They operate off of an equilibrium with nature, something that humanity has lost. But clearly, by the way, we just disregard the planet. I mean, most people don't even consider the fact that we're living on a ball. I mean, I'm not even mentioning the flat earth people. I'm just talking about people who are just living their daily lives. They see roads, buildings, a skyline, and that's it. There's no because they're so caught up into their day-to-day lives, which is a form of the mental prison that the species with amnesia talks about. Our structured life is meant to be designed in a way where we are not focused on the deeper aspects of reality. We are meant to be focused on trivial things and our immediate needs for survival. And the thing I'm trying to say here is, if you have a society that doesn't operate off profit, if you have a society that operates off of the will to thrive, to explore space, to explore the inner and outer realities of life, you know, to explore the mysteries of reality, you would have a society that's designed differently, in the sense that we are not destroying the earth, we are not divided from each other, and we are operating on the basis of knowledge. So I had to write a list to outline just that. And then I realized that the ancient peoples of our species, they were at one point living in a golden age where they were operating on the basis of what I just described, and their societies were reflected off that. They created their structures in a way that reflect the stars in the sky, and reflected that image onto the ground, and the formation of the buildings, and the position of the buildings, and the orientation of the buildings. They created their structures in a manner that reflects the sacred geometry and sacred geodesy of the Earth's sphere, the proportions of the Earth's size and the Earth's circumference. And when you think about that, what kind of society would go to such lengths to incorporate sacred geometrical numerical values into their architecture? It would have to be a society that is viewing the Earth as something that is important, something that they are intimately associated with. So like, I began to see how there's a story here, that humanity was once this epic interconnected species that perhaps even read each other's minds and didn't even use language, who were connected to the field of energy that all life is a part of. I mean, I'm not trying to say that Star Wars was legit, but I think Star Wars is legit when they talk about the Force. You know what I mean? Like, because all creative aspects of, you know, like human storytelling, it derives from our observations of reality and the philosophies of reality and the religions that are created out of these philosophies. But I think there is this energy field that our ancestors were once aware of, and some still are, and we see them as backwards from our Western society's perspective. So we're so into our mental programming of like the way we live, and our mental illusion of like advancement and technological achievements, and we see ourselves as superior above anyone else that does not have these things. Yet it is the people who we deem as primitive and backwards, those are the people who maintained their spiritual connection to the nature of reality. They may interpret it in their own language, their own cultural dialect, but that connection is still there, whether they call it Allah or God. It doesn't even matter, because their perspective is locked onto that spiritual force. And then I realized that the religions of today's world, they were meant to also be used to control the masses. And I looked at history, and I see the way that, you know, empirical expansions were possible because the masses supported that expansion, because they believed they were fighting for the God. And it's just like, I see a manipulation with our species. I think there is an agenda to keep us from awakening, keep us from realizing who we are. And I think there was a purposefully driven intention to keep us in the dark. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you watch The Matrix, I don't think there's a better metaphor for the status of humanity than what we see in that movie. Not in the literal sense, but in the metaphorical sense, in that we're all plugged into the system, and the system was created by these artificial machines that don't think or feel. They operate on their function, which is to parasite off the planet and the species. And what's crazy is that when you get into the ancient traditions of the many cultures of the world, for example, the Gnostics, they literally talk about how there's a demiurge that fooled humanity into making them believe that he was a god, and that this demiurge siphoned off the negativity and suffering of all beings on this planet. I'm not taking that literally, but I see that there's some kind of metaphor there. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So I felt like knowing what's happened to my species, knowing what could potentially be done to fix the problems of the world, I feel like I have to get this message out there. So I created that series.
I have to just interject, man. You know, I have poured over countless information in my life. I'm a data miner in a sense. You know, I'm always, I mean, for decades now, I've been just consuming as much information as I possibly can to help, you know, conceptualize my reality. You know, maybe it's fun and on some level. It's just fun as hell to do it, but then on another, it's like a true purpose in my life. I have poured over countless bits of content. I have to say, the species with amnesia is no joke. One, it might be like the most comprehensive, like package of everything, and done in such a good way that I've ever seen. Man, I'm not even joking. I don't. I know. I don't. I'm not trying to kiss your
Thank you.
ass, or you know, I'm not trying
No.
to blow up your ego or any of that kind of thing. But I think that and you can just hear from this your introduction of your commentary here in the beginning already of this, what I'm talking about. But whoever's listening to this, if you value my opinion at all, I'm telling you, you should check this series out. And part of, you know, the thread that I see through it all is kind of this thread of evolution, and on some level, this demiurge that you're talking about, from maybe an evolution of a species. Is it? Do you think it's possible that it's necessary to to go through this, to have a time of to be, you know, to have to deal with this demiurge energy as a species in order to create an evolution for us to fall asleep and then to wake up again? And when we wake up again, not only do we remember who we were, but we're actually even coming into a greater awareness because we've kind of like leveled up in a sense
Good
as a
point.
species. Do you
Good.
think that's
Good.
possible? What's taking place?
Short answer, yes. Long answer, I think that the function of this demiurge, like the function of, okay, if I think everything in this universe serves its function, and
Yeah.
there's no good or evil. It's more like forces of light and darkness and negative, positive reactions. I don't think the negative is necessarily intentionally evil. It's just serving its purpose.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think as whatever we are, a conscious entity, a spiritual entity, whatever it is we want to view ourselves, the spark of whatever that gives this body its life, the 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 I, if you will. Um, I think it's meant to go through a learning lesson, and this life is like a school in which every choice we make, every reaction like to an action, it matters, and that determines whether or not we learned our lesson. Like, it's weird to say, like, it's this is where I think all religions came from just exploring this idea, and it's that perhaps this reality, it's designed to be a reality of duality, a reality of unjust and just, and all these things of polarity. It's designed to be like that simply because it allows the conscious observer to make a choice of who they will be and through their actions and what have you. Um, and I guess, like, much like how the ancient Egyptians viewed it, like, I'm reading John Anthony West lately, and he talks about the ancient Egyptians and the religion, and I think they have a very distinctively clear view on the meaning of life. And I think they were saying that your heart will be weighed on about like a scale, and at the end of your life, not literally but metaphorically, who you are will be weighed. And if you did so much negative, if you contributed to the negative forces in life, then that scale will be out of balance, and you will have to restart your lesson. And like, who knows, like, how long that process is. Like, what if this entire 13.4 billion year universe, what if it's all just in the illusion of the construct of that evolutionary cycle that each and every one of us, the oneness, is a part of, experiencing itself just to go through that process of learning through all manifested, like every manifestation of life, of this universe, goes through that learning process in its own way, in that 13.4 billion year times span. And like, we all at some point converge, you know what I mean? And it's like some it's like a program, but it's beyond any comprehensible piece of technology. It's like a living program, and it's beyond like our grasp. But like I do think that this life is a learning lesson. So that's my long answer to that question.
Yeah. I always see it as the universe is playing hide and go seek with itself. It's like we the peekaboo, like peekaboo, we get all excited, and like young children, they love that game. And somehow I don't even get why they dig it so much, because it's like, well, who do you think is behind the hands? Come on, dude. Haven't you figured this game out yet? But on some level, that's kind of that game that's like so universal. Peekaboo. It feels like that's what's really happening. As like the universe comes into one, it just like explodes into a bajillion pieces, and each of that is of consciousness. So of course it has intelligence, it has whatever, the source of all. But in a sense, when it fractalizes like that, there's a bits of amnesia, which is kind of why your thing is so cool. In some ways, it's like saying the same thing. The universe is playing hide and go seek with itself is the same thing as a species with amnesia. It's like we're going to forget, and then we'll come back together. And I think in many ways that's when we come through these bits of awakening, because I think we've done this before. I think we've fallen asleep and waken up several times before.
Absolutely.
And, especially when you're talking about, at least on this earth, when you're talking about natural disasters, like physically, wiping out the knowledge and wiping out things and having to almost start over, it makes a lot of sense that we'd have no choice but to, individuals can't have all knowledge of the universe. So it requires almost all of us to kind of bring our collective knowledge to this, hive mind, which is hive mind in a good way. I don't mean it in the controller sense, which of course everything can be used as a tool. Even the controllers know about this hive mind, and that's why they use it to, when the bees come back, they're poisoning the bees every single time they come back to the queen. It's like, oh, here, the little worker bee. So, thank you so much. But and then meanwhile, they're fucking poisoning them to death. Like it's this weird, the wrong way. But there's a beautiful way that it's, the hive can operate, and it's such a beautiful, like, just collective. I don't know, man. I can visualize it, and I've actually experienced it with certain psychedelic experiences of mine, where I've had this visualization of this hive and of the human hive, and how and all the whole universe hive. I mean, the whole thing is a big giant hive that we're all a part of. It's fascinating, man.
Thank you, bro. Can I tell you something? How much I value this conversation right now. It's a while since I've actually been talking to someone who's telling me this. You know what I mean? Like it's very nice and refreshing to know that like people around the world are awakening and they're in the know, bro. Like you have no idea, man. Like just that alone, like, cause like, bro, like, there is a consciousness grid. Like I've been trying to say this to like,
dude, isn't that morphic resonance, by the way, what you just described? Aren't you the rat in Japan, and I'm the rat you're the rat in Toronto, and I'm the rat in Arizona, and we're like,
I think this ties into
the same shit.
Yeah, man, I think this ties into quantum entanglement, because if you change the state of one electron on this side of the galaxy, it instantly changes the fucking electron on this side of the galaxy, because the electrons are apparently, the atom is not in one place until you look at it. When you look at it, before you look at it, it's just frequency and wavelengths stretch out across space-time. It's crazy. But what I was trying to say to you from before about the what did you say just now before? Sorry. The hive mind, the consciousness grid. I truly think that.
Oh, hold on, David. I think we're lost.
Psilocybin experience.
Hold on. Are you there? It's freezing up.
Are we here now?
I hear your voice, but you're still frozen.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Probably my Wi-Fi.
No, no worries, man. They'll just cut that out.
Am I still frozen now?
No, you're good now. Wait,
good?
Now you're frozen. Okay. We'll cut all this out, so don't sweat it. We'll just make sure we got the flow. The Wi-Fi flow.
Okay. Let me try to fix up my Wi-Fi.
You're good, man. You're good now. You're pretty solid.
I'm good now?
Yeah, there's been a continuous.
Yeah, it's so weird how that works.
Yeah, don't.
Because like you never know if it's real time or not.
Okay. Ready? Hive mind. Go ahead. Yeah. Go ahead right into it, brother.
Okay, so you can hear me right now, right?
I can hear you good. Yeah.
Okay. Um, First time I ever done psilocybin mushrooms, I looked upon the night sky and I seen something and it looked like the stars were communicating. What I mean by that is each one sent like a ripple wave, like a sound
Mm-hmm.
wave. Like I know that could have been a hallucination, but I honestly felt there's something to it. This was before I even knew what morphic resonance was or anything. I literally seen the connection between the stars. I think they do communicate through their own frequency, through their own way. um and the fact that we are made up of stardust, like we're like children of the stars. So before this was before I learned about morphic resonance, I witnessed the stars communicating, and after that day I was wondering, could there be validity to the concept that everything is one? That's when I was getting into the whole Native American traditions. Like, not obviously there's thousands of Native American tribes and nations, but predominantly they speak of the fact that we're all interconnected. They view nature as the nexus of that construct of interconnectivity. Like it's like a nexus of consciousness. It's this nexus of souls. They view everything as spirit. Um, from there, from seeing that, I began to wonder if the Illuminati, as it were, if they were using this knowledge of the consciousness grid to manipulate, not only the human species, but like the planet itself. And the implications of this are like scary to me, because if they are doing this to one planet, how many other planets is this happening on? And could this be a threat to the overall like universe? Because if the universe is a living organism, and humanity itself is operating like a virus, could this disease of materialism, this disease of 3D materialism, 3D reductionism be like a virus across the universe? And could that be a thing that part of our responsibility is to undo? You know what I mean? Like, part of our evolution is to undo. So like all these thoughts just come into like just the observation of these things. And I feel like this is why, as we're going to discuss, I believe that psychedelics is such an important part of our evolutionary process. This goes beyond the stoned ape theory. This is the stoned human ape theory. Like, this is the stoned Homo sapien theory, bro. Like, if you were to if you just look at what psychedelics do to people now, bro, we don't even have to talk about what it did to people back then. It's not even a question at that point.
Yeah.
Like, people are seeing and experiencing things that are profound in every sense of the fucking word. Like, the fact that you're having the same entity communicate with people who have never met each other before, the same descriptions of these entities. You know what I mean? For example, Mother Ayahuasca, through ayahuasca. There's no like, and this is something like that's not bound to just ayahuasca. Like, if you're talking about the way the brain perceives reality and how just our basic normal perception of reality relies on the fact that we're taking light waves and sound waves and whatever sensory input required to give us this projection of reality. If you're incorporating psychedelics into that mix, then it's not that the psychedelic is providing these hallucinations of this woman or Mother Ayahuasca or whatever. It's that they're broadening the bandwidth of the mind's perception, allowing specific information to flow in for them to perceive these entities and realities. Okay. So like, when you're seeing this woman and when you're hearing about this woman, I think this is literally Mother Nature. I think every planet is like this feminine presence, if you will, within this masculine backdrop. Like, if we're talking about duality, I think that's how it works in terms of the universe. Like, every planet is like this mother, that every moon is a mother, every star is a mother, but like the dark matter, if you will, is like the construct that holds it together, if you're talking about duality within the universe. But that's just my theory. The planet itself is under attack by this demiurge force, whether that be a metaphor or not. I see it happening, and like, the danger is like, yes, if I've talked to many spiritual people and they're like, yo, don't even sweat it, everything will be okay, we're all going to be one at the end. I'm like, yes, that's true. However, I feel like there's a certain responsibility that we need to be acknowledging here. I don't think it's just like, oh yeah, I'll just let the earth get destroyed while I just live like in like peace. You know what I mean? Like, there's something not right about that for me, at least. Like, I'm sure, like, I could be wrong. I could very well be
Yeah.
wrong.
There's an element of the angry activist that's very virtuous, man. And maybe we should all have a little of that. You know, Terrence McKenna always talked about, I don't get why people aren't more angry, you know, and, you know, they just don't see it. And if they did see it, they'd be raging in the streets, you know, and
Great
it's
impersonation, by the way.
I mean, that is true. And I think that it's okay. And if there is an activism element to this, like a real action oriented, purpose that we all, I think, need to fulfill. That's why I sometimes struggle with the elements of, you know, in the consciousness community of, like, take ufology and you know, the aliens and hell, even the QAnon stuff. It's kind of like waiting for someone else to do it. You know, someone else is going to clean the ocean up, or someone else is going to fix my community. Someone else is going to, you know, pick up the trash in the park. I mean, that's kind of, I think, where we have to turn the switch on, and combine it with this knowledge of where we come from and all of that. I mean, history is very valuable, but we can't just stay stuck in there. I mean, who cares about the Egyptians at some level when we have us right here, right now?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I totally dig every single one of these topics and all of the aspects of what it is to be human. But there's also the element of, like, dude, somebody has got to plant some fucking trees.
Yeah.
Okay. Somebody's got to do that.
Something's got to be done right now with the life that we're given, right? And obviously, we cannot make things change in the blink of an eye. It cannot happen overnight. It cannot happen in a few years. But what can happen is that before each and every one of us dies, we at least did something to nudge humanity in the right direction, so that it will be moving in that direction. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, I think in terms of generations. I don't think in terms of, like, just within my lifetime. I think in terms of, like, okay, like, what can we do right now that will guarantee that humanity will not become what we saw in Avatar, for example, like just invading planets and turning them into, like, strip mines, and then going off to the next planet and turning it into, like, it's like a virus, man. It's legit like a virus. I don't think humanity was meant to be a virus. I think we've been designed to be a virus, and I think that manipulation that designed us to be like this, I think it needs to be put into the spotlight and shown for what it is. Because what it is, it's just like this. It's an ideology. Like, it's no longer like a physical entity. Like, if the Illuminati is still like a physical, like, entity that's controlling stuff, okay. But, like, I think at this point, it's just humanity has been, like, I think the original manipulators of humanity are far dead, and their ideology is just stuck within the brains of the elitists of the world.
I know, it's a generational thing.
Yes. And I think that needs to be undone. Like, if somehow, some way, like, even if all the people who are in entertainment have no idea that their position of power is, like, potentially like game changing. Like, look at John Lennon's Bed-In, for example. We rewind the clocks back to, like, the 70s when we see where this guy was starting his give peace a chance. Like, everyone, like, basically what it was is he was trying to get everyone to stay home. Like, don't go to work, don't go to school. And he got, like, millions of people doing that. This is why Nixon was going to deport the man. This is why, like, they looked at him as a terrorist. They were labeling him as a terrorist. Like, what the fuck? How do you call someone who's preaching about peace a terrorist, first of all? Like, what the fuck is that? Anyway, but, like...
Well, anybody who fights the state is a terrorist.
It's so fucked. Like, and the people just buy into that bullshit. Oh, yeah, John Lennon, he was a communist. Like, what? Like, come on, man. Like, bro.
He was a collectivist.
He was... I don't even think we could label people who just go through that transition. We just have to label them because it makes us feel like we could make sense of the situation. Mm-hmm. But, like, I think, like, he was an example of, like, a person who became, like, a neo-human. Mm-hmm. The whole concept of neo-humanism, if the people are new to that concept that are listening to this, it's basically transcending from an egotistic orientated society to a society that values all life, regardless of its animate or inanimate state, recognizing that everything is sacred, essentially, and that we're all part of this universe. A society operating on those values I can guarantee will transcend all wars and segregations and divisions. And doing something like what he was trying to do, I think, is very vital. This was a non-violent protest that didn't require anyone to go up on the streets, blocking the streets. This just required everyone to stay at home and hold the system hostage. Like, it's literally like you're boycotting the system and you're forcing the officials to listen to the voices of the people. Because, what the fuck are they going to do? What are you going to do? Arrest everyone? What are they going to do? Fucking kill everyone? They can't rule over nothing if there's nothing to rule. Like, that doesn't make sense. Like, it's a paradox. It's a machine that has an obvious flaw. And I think it's just the fear of the unknown that's keeping people from doing that. I think it's the fear that, how are we going to get our food? How are we going to get our water? Like, we just got to realize we're all people. The people that are running us, they're just people. Like, just get them thinking on the level, bro. Like, what's wrong with having a world where everyone has access to clean water and shelter? Like, what's wrong with that? Like, I don't understand why that has to be, it's associated with any type of social paradigm, whether that be communism or socialism or whatever, like, ism you want to throw at me. Like, I'm just trying to view things from a logical perspective. Like, why not redesign cities so that we're in equilibrium with the earth? You have, for example, like, this is an example of how money limits our evolution as a species. Instead of having the layout of city design be that of like something that's just spreading across the earth like a virus, why not have everything in like a tower formation or geodesic dome? Like, okay, let me give you an example of this. All the farmlands take up so much acres of land that's so unnecessary if they were just built in a giant like tower facility, like made out of like concentrated like solar panels that like focalized the sunlight and like gave them natural sun and stored that energy and gave them sunlight during the night all night round. Like a machine that just generates plant and like permaculture type ways of living. You know what I mean? Like, you can incorporate some kind of like permaculture structure that's self-sufficient. You know what I mean? The system, the whole idea of having like roads and highways, like, why not just suspend them all? Suspend everything on platforms, let nature grow underneath and grow in between. You know what I mean? Why do we have to be in nature's space like that? Just let, we could coexist.
I've always had this, for whatever vision of the future, that there's one day in the future humanity is going to tear up all the roads.
Yeah.
I don't even know what that means. I know, because it's like beyond the paradigm. Like, wait a minute, well, how are you going to do this? And how to, so of course you meant big breakdowns, but I've always had this vision that in the future, all the roads are going to be torn up.
That
or
is
kind of like bring back, like, let the natural world, like, give it back.
Yes.
Yeah. We can do it. And we can be living badass lives too. So we can, high tech lives. Okay.
Yeah, man. Like, there's no need to like be such a, like, I don't understand. Like, what's the fuss? Like, people are like, well, how are you going to live? Why would anyone work? I'm like, well, is anyone truly enjoying the jobs they're working at right now? Like, really? Like, I'm sure like people are passionate about their careers, sure, but like, how many people are just working like in the, like, I've worked in all kinds of jobs, from construction to warehouse work, and I was always the labor guy, right? So I always understood like what these people go through. That like, so many people go through this, you know what I mean? And they go from minimum wage job to minimum wage job, just living off the bare minimum. I'm like, what the fuck is this? Like, why does anyone want this? Like, it does not make more sense to have machines do all the menial work while humans are just living life. Yo, bro, do you want to go to Saturn today? Yeah, sure, why not? We'll just go fly to Saturn, like, and we're just smoking a spliff in a spaceship, just looking at the moon. It's like, oh shit, we could actually just do whatever the fuck we want. Like,
do you think though the only way that we can get there is for it to be shown? Like, somebody's got to do it. Some microcosm community needs to really put it out there and start proving the possibilities. It just feels like we're always waiting for the big money to change it for us. God, it would be so easy. Can you imagine if if we did have a government that was conscious? I mean, we could do this really quick, all the best ideas could come forward, and we could even have, certain cities doing different things so that we can get to the best solution. Not to say one's bad or terrible, but just say, hey man, let's have a more collective model in this city, more of an individual model here. Let's start using
see what works.
This here, and then after we'll just see whatever works, and we'll just compare notes, and let's come up with a collective solutions to things.
Yes.
But I don't know. It's like waiting around for the big governments to not be corrupt. I just feel like we're gonna wait forever. We'll wait forever.
Yeah,
I mean, I do
we
think
gotta
that there are
actually
good
go in
people
there.
entering the system right now, and there are good people that are actually trying to change this. They're trying to get elected as officials and slowly like invade this tower with good people, and hopefully we can, take
The
over.
Tower of
Okay.
Sauron. They're trying to infiltrate
Yeah,
Mordor and purify.
exactly. There's enough of us if we can just fight back, But I think if you don't feel chosen to become a politician, then you better get to work trying to create it now. Like grassroots, if you will, whatever that
Yeah.
means. I mean, I feel like if the grassroots can eventually meet at the same time as the good guys take over, well, then we'll be ready. I mean, even tomorrow, I hear Joel Salatin, who's I had him on actually on our podcast like a year ago. Who's he owns Polyface Farms in over in Virginia, and he's showing people a sustainable way of raising livestock and
Mm.
how it all he's got the whole systems down. He's amazing, but he talks about how there's even though industrialized farming is a dead end. We don't even, and there's a better way to do it. There's not enough people to even start the better way of doing it farms. We need to start living it on smaller levels before we're ready for the 2,000 acres. Can you even do 1 acre? Can you even have one community living like this, let alone a planetary civilization? I mean, it feels like it has to be done that way, and it'd be better if it came from a grassroots level, and if the grassroots can meet eventually when we can finally take over the budgets, and put that world wealth to like really good use. The regular people got to be ready for it, man. If there's a better way, we need enough people who can install solar panels. We need enough people who can. Well, maybe we don't even need solar panels. Okay, you've touched
This is
on
what I'm
that.
saying. Like everyone's saying, like, how is everyone going to work in a society? I'm like, well, the whole transition to that kind of society is the work. Like, there's so many jobs that could be created in the redesigning of human
Oh man.
civilization. It's right there. Like the whole zeitgeist showing us how we could generate power off the waves, how we could collect the heat from the fucking mantle of the earth
Mm-hmm.
with geothermal power, thorium. It's all
What
right
if every customer service agent for credit card companies all went toward like we changed them tomorrow? Said, okay, we're done with this industry. You guys are all going to help clean up the oceans, and we have the money for it.
right.
Why? I mean, it's nuts, right? When you think about all like the useless labor that's just being done right now, and just
Yeah.
useless
Dude,
jobs that don't take
I
us
worked at a call
anywhere.
center. Let me tell you something. I worked at a call center, and all we did was call people and ask them what their experience was at TD Bank. And I was thinking to myself, how much paper gets wasted over this fucking useless
Mm-hmm.
menial job? Like these humans in this, there was like 100 people in there every time, every shift. I was like, all of us could be like working on something 8 hours a day. You're telling me that we're being responsible adults by just sitting back and allowing this fucking pristine gem of a planet to get destroyed by what? By YOLOians? By people who are just like, fuck
YOLOians.
it. Like, yo, bro, fucking drink and suck dick and do coke and fuck off. Like, bro, no. Like, no, all that's wrong, man. Like,
You always have such a great one of my favorite parts about all the work that you've done or just the content that you've created and put out there to the world is some of your views on pop culture and how pop culture has been used to create just total apathy with especially the young generations. Okay, and it's been going on for multiple generations. So we it's not like this generation, the young people now, is the first time this has happened to. And so I just kind of want you to talk about like what you see in terms of how they use this pop culture to distract, to twist the young mind into not seeing that big picture that you're talking about.
well, like they understand that to fully enslave the mind of the masses, you must start with the children. And pop culture plays such a huge part in our social structures as youths, as young adults. Like when you enter high school, you see it immediately how social circles are formed based off of acceptance of what we deem to be normality, and what is normality is determined by our culture. And whether we want to acknowledge it or not, our culture is that of materialism. So in school, for example, whoever is determined to be someone who is appealing is someone who has the latest gear, who has the Nikes, who has the fashion get go, or who's not even just that, someone who's projecting an image, basically. And what pop culture emphasizes on is the projection of ego. And this forces our youth, well, like my generation, the generation after me or before me, it forces all of us to basically focus on the surface level of ourselves, like the surface layer, like all the external parts, like how we look on the outside, how we sound, how we behave. And these are all surface layer aspects of the human mind, of the human entity. There's not one song I've ever heard in the latest mainstream music on any radio that it ignites any kind of like realization of oneself. It's more so just the fulfillment of attaining material gains, or in the sense of trap music, which is something that, if you live in Scarborough, Ontario, is something that's really big around here. Like the whole nonsense of mumble rap and what have you. It's but buddy, it's horrible. Like they've completely butchered hip hop to being something that's a mockery of what it once stood for. When what it once stood for was the people who were being oppressed by society were expressing and voicing their experiences through music. And what happened now is that the people of my generation, they don't experience that oppressiveness. And if they did, no, what am I saying? Of course they do. They experience it, but they don't know how to vocalize it. So instead of actually like trying to get a message out there, what they do instead is they relish in their own selfish
indulgence.
Yes, they seek to gain their own. They want their own empire. It's so weird. It's so foolish. Like if you look at any like if you look at the
well, the social media part of it too brings that out.
Followers.
I think social media is a tool, but when used, the dark side of social media just totally placates to what you're saying.
Holy fuck, buddy! Like imagine how a stripper feels who has like 2 million followers and all she does is take pictures of her ass and tatas, bro. Like her value towards herself, her what she thinks is the most valuable part of herself is the least, most, in spiritual terms, is the least.
Well, especially because one day she's going to be a saggy, baggy, wrinkly old lady.
Plastic, bro. It's horrible. Like what the imagery that we see of what is beauty in our accepted culture, it makes women, it turns them into Barbie dolls. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, I got fake eyelashes, fake nails, fake tatas, fake ass, Botox, this fucking plastic everywhere. Like dog, bro. And they think that's okay. Like, and we reached the point now where it's like, I've argued with guys who, like, I know this shouldn't even be like a thing, but like, I'll say it anyway. But like, guys who are like arguing with me about like fake tatas and real and fake tits and real tits. I'm saying like, listen, why the hell would you even like be attracted to that? It's a Barbie doll at that point. He's like, I don't give a fuck. So I'm like, okay, so you just like the idea of like fucking something that looks a certain way, but you don't actually appreciate the process of interconnecting. Like that's the thing about sex. It's so perverted. It's so perverticized. I don't even know what the word is. They've turned it from something sacred to something that is used to just be the focus, the distraction of both men and women. Like it's such a powerful experience that one cannot let go of the fact that they could go back and just experience that again. So it becomes something addictive, and it becomes something that is now the focus of all like the young people's like attention. You know what I mean? Whether they know it or not, like it's pretty messed up. Like I view high school as a kind of a social engineering pool of like, that's why it's like a school of fish that are getting programmed in a certain way, and they're getting their social circles formed, and then the mates are selected, and then like the next generation of humans just spawns off from there. And it's not just high school, it's just any like social gathering, social institution that forces people of both genders to be in a position where they could commingle in a certain way and establish the normality of society, or what deems to be the normality of society. Like they establish it. Like if you're not part of that, you're an outsider. Like bro, like from my experience, like I wasn't like I was like an outsider, but I definitely did not belong to any one group. I always floated from group to group, and I would see things from like a Discovery Channel perspective. Like I was a camera, and every human being was like an animal on the Discovery Channel. I was like witnessing all social interactions from that level. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
I've had a similar experience in that regard.
yeah. Okay, well, I'm sure you know what I mean by when I say that you could see how if any one social group, you could see how there is that alpha male, alpha female mentality, and like everyone will try to follow or impress that person, whether they know they're trying to impress or not. Like they'll hype things up. Like, yo, dog, yo, I went to the bar yesterday and I drank like two Hennessy's, bro, and like 8 beers, and I like 2 shots, and like an apple. Yo, no, they'll just list things that are not really accomplishments. They're just things that they use to destroy themselves. You know what I mean? And that's the focus of today's I don't want to just say hip hop. It's just like today's media industry, like movies, video games, and music. All of them are like a husk of what they once were. Like if you look at music in the 80s, for instance, and I see. Trust me, I know the control system has always been in place and they've always been pushing a certain agenda through the media. But if you just, for example, look at how they pressured the music industry now compared to previously before, it's like a direct, like, okay, we literally want to generate this image. I listen to music from the 80s and I hear Heart. I don't hear Heart. And like, I mean, I hear some song like Hoyser, Take Me to Church, whatever, you know what I mean? Like, some new songs will come with that heart, but like it's not really like the focus of media. It's like in the side. It's indie. It's like bro, I would listen to things like that in school, you know, like, and the hoodlums would be like, yo, this guy's gay, yo. Like, you know what I mean? Like it's social programming, bro. Sure. Yo, dog, do you like Star Wars? This guy likes Star Wars. Yo, this guy's gay, yo. Like what the fuck? You know what I mean? Like anything to do with hinting out who we truly are is considered to be abnormal or gay or stupid or whatever.
Yeah, I always say I have a lot of respect for anybody who doesn't, you know, beat to the drum of the mainstream culture. You know, if you've exited, and even if you have to go to some sort of subculture and not, to have some identity with them, but at least they're not the mainstream one. You know, I even like take the goth world. I find that to be kind of like a counterculture movement in a way. Okay. Granted, I feel for myself, I don't like to be pigeonholed into any team or, you know, I guess I try really just to like create my own tribe, whatever that even means, based on just love, connection, shared purpose. And then whatever culture develops from that, I kind of see that being my future in terms of, you know, whatever subculture I want to create. I want it to be truly organic, you know, divinely created in many ways. Like let that culture like well up from inside of you, as opposed to be brought in from the outside and telling you how to, you know, okay, here it is. It's all predefined for you. Girls, now you're going to have to put on 4-inch heels, make sure you put paint on your face, and, you know, all that shit, right? And boys too. I mean, like you were just saying, this idea of like the homophobia that exists within men, that's just so nuts. Like sharing intimate emotions is somehow that gets triggered towards that's gay or homophobic, or what are you going to make out with me now, or something like that. The fact that we ever even got to that point. And again, that probably comes from that over sexualization of everything. You know, using that, I mean, sex is amazing. It is a beautiful thing, but everything can be used for shadow and light. And, you know, it's not to say anything is good or bad in and of itself. It has both. It has all of those elements. And if it's used in the wrong way, just like you were saying with religion, you know, going full circle in our conversation, how this desire to connect with our creator, that's a beautiful thing. So we take this desire that pretty much exists in everybody, and then we twist it. You know, we use that beautiful thing to create some beautiful things, but it's ultimately it's twisted for something, for the gain of a small few, and
Right.
and the trickery that's involved, so that no one gets what's going on. And then the blindness that's created, and whatever, like, I'll just get you guys all hooked on porn so you guys don't realize that we're blowing up, third world countries, stealing all their natural resources, and, impoverishing the people. Oh, and then we're going to make them come. And because of that, now they're going to come move to your country, because they got nowhere. Now they're refugees. And we're gonna stack them on top of each other, and then they're gonna fight each other and blame each other for all the issues.
Yes.
And it's like now we get blinded to all of the dots being connected, because we, like you were saying, we get so, when you're just stuck in that ego space.
To the point. Sorry, it's to the point where we are enslaving ourselves mentally, and we are so plugged into the system, like Morpheus said, that people will, not me or you, but people who are so plugged into the system, they will die defending it. They will fight to protect it. You know what I mean? Like, it's so weird. Like, they've been taught to hate themselves. You know what I'm saying? And like Malcolm X said, who taught you to hate yourself, man? Like, check your motives and thoughts. Check your belief system. Like, bro, I reevaluate everything I learn. I try to make sure that I'm not bullshitting anyone or bullshitting myself, because I know what it's. I've been through many belief systems before. Like, I used to think like the hollow earth and like stuff like that, but like that was because I was like a rebel trying to figure out what's real and what's not. But then I looked at that and I was like, that's complete. Like, I don't think that's, I think that's bullshit is the short phrase to say it.
Well, there's so much out there, when you even in the alternative history space, and a lot of it contradicts each other. So then you go, well, shit, what do I got to choose now? I mean, is this real or is this not?
What resonates?
Yeah, what resonates? And I don't know. It's on a lot of this stuff. If you can't fucking walk into the middle of the earth yourself, then I think any individual, it's no different than the flat earth. Until I fucking see the earth from my own eyeballs, then I can say 100%. Until then, dude, I don't. If this is a flat Earth, I always say I'll leave at least a 0.5% of possibility open to even the incredible. Right. Because I have to, because I have awoken to so many things that have blown my mind. But it doesn't mean that everything that potentially blows your mind is actual reality.
Is reality.
So you have to kind of start sifting through that. And I just hope, we have so much division in these kind of communities of people. We're trying to, this counterculture movement that's happening again in our world. We start getting into subcultures within the larger community or sub communities, and it starts turning it tribal again. And
do you use Reddit?
No, you talk about it a lot, and I know it's like super famous. No, I don't.
Buddy, you want to talk about tribal communities and subcultures? You should look at Reddit, because bro, there's a control of information happening that you have to fight for. You have to fight for your point to get anything out on that website. And I think it's a testimony to society, because like essentially anything to do with anything that's not the official mainstream is considered pseudoscience and pseudo book. And like, how can you say what's a fact and what's not a fact? Like, yes, there's gravity, that's a fact, we could both agree on that, but the cause of it, you know what I mean? Like it's a lot more than just what meets the eye. You know what I mean? The whole universe is an intricate system of forces working upon each other to make what we see and what we are. Yeah. You know what I mean? So
yeah, don't you think though, as time goes on, even in our own lifetime, like in the next 50 years, I think certain events and more information and evidence will surface that will bring the truth to the surface. Okay. I don't think the internet's getting put back in the bag. I don't believe the controllers are winning this thing. I'm a firm believer. I don't know how long it's going to take, and I get really impatient sometimes because I want it done now.
I hear you.
I want this. Let's just try rolling this out tomorrow. I can't wait till, people are, installing the solar panels and planting the trees and cleaning the oceans. Okay. And that's the new economy and whatever, right? I can see the vision of it, but I want it now. But we have to be patient, and we just have to keep.
We have to push for
that faith that we do. It doesn't mean you're just going to sit around and do nothing. I
We
mean,
gotta be
on
patient as
some.
we push, like the guy pushing the boulder up the mountain. But go on,
Hmm.
sorry.
Well, I suppose at this time in your life, like if you're feeling pushed to have those dialogues with the people on the Reddit communities, then it's great. I actually think it's great. I don't know if your whole life that'll serve you. Maybe eventually you'll be like, I'm done, and somebody else will tag in and go, okay, now it's my turn to fucking fight this fight the good fight or wherever, in all these different facets of the collective, right?
Yeah,
But yeah, it's. I really think that the evidence will come to the surface, and we are headed towards greater and greater transparency, disclosure, the entire thing, and people are waking up slowly but surely. People are waking up. The people, like you had said, when
hence
you
this
had left
conversation.
Islam,
Hmm.
you went kind of directly into the scientific atheistic mindset,
Yes,
which is very common. So
yes,
common. I know so many people who leave religion who go to atheism,
yes.
and it's
The key
that's
is not to
cool,
get stuck in that. Like
right?
if you get stuck in that, that's it. You're just
Yeah, and hell, maybe some people are meant to be in that space. I mean, maybe it's like I don't want to. I still think that there's people that are probably meant to be in these
mm,
old religions and stay in them, and I don't know, be some sort of use for good, and in that regard, I don't really. Everyone has a
I hear
different
you.
plan. Not
There's a
everyone's plan
function.
is to like go to the top of the elevator in a sense. I mean, maybe they will in their own way, but everyone has a different life purpose.
Yes.
So maybe you are meant to be an atheist, and that's cool, dude. I dig it, and I'm not even saying that. We'll find out for officially after the lights go out whether who's right and who's wrong. Blah blah blah. But yeah, it's
Chances are there's more than what meets the eye.
yeah. I mean, because when you see that in everything, that there's more to this than we realize, and when you take psychedelics and that's like
Oh fuck man.
the one of the big messages is, dude, what you thought this was is
Yeah.
way, way, way more complicated, nuanced, trippy, fucking beautiful, scary, scarier than you
Yeah.
can ever even imagine. What you
That's
thought it
that's a
was,
big
it's
one.
way
Yeah.
further, and it just shows you that you don't know shit. It's like it
Yeah.
gives you enough of an experience to go, you don't know nothing, dude. Okay,
I
and
say this to people all the time. People think I know everything. I'm telling them, listen, the more I learn, the more I know that I know nothing.
yeah.
Like it's like you're in a flashlight in a giant dark room and you just turned it on and you realize how big the fucking room is. You're like, oh shit, I've been in this tiny corner the whole time.
It's infinite fractals. You open one
Yes.
door, there's 100 doors. Then you
Yeah.
choose one of those doors, and there's another 100. And it's like, dude, there ain't even enough time in the day, and
And
there's
this is
ain't even
what
enough time in the day to uncover it all.
sorry, buddy. I just gotta inject this. Like,
Yeah,
what
go.
frustrates me, I wish the quantum physicists would talk about fractal geometry. I've never heard a single fucking quantum physicist. I mean, aside from like the one guy that I've been posting in my morphic resonance videos who talks about the dark matter fractal field, but I haven't had a single quantum physicist who's done DMT who also knows about fractal geometry. I want one of those to happen. I think that guy will change the world. Like, at least one of them
Mm-hmm.
doing DMT and then just putting two and two together with the fractal geometry and then the whole like nature of reality and how that applies to consciousness. Because I think if scientists would actually just get out of that prison of fear that's been built by the war on drugs, like I feel like they would actually get to the bottom of the nature of reality, and that could potentially be the catalyst for our neo-human evolution.
Right.
You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
but when you think about all the scientists that have any reputation, that
Mm.
have that if they said something, it would actually change the minds of the people on Reddit subgroups. Okay, those
It
guys.
might.
Where's that guy getting his paycheck from? And
That's
then
true too.
and that's it. You just start realizing like these
The
guys are
agenda is being pushed.
all being financed from the system because they are
Yes.
brilliant. I mean, a lot of them they are fucking amazing people.
Yes.
But then there's a certain frontier that because they get the paycheck, they're not allowed to go down. And obviously, drug use is one of them, and it's kind of
Yes.
like dude, I can't be letting people know in my my right, in my what do you call it, the papers that they write up with their studies about how I did DMT and all that, I
Yeah.
it's like there's some sort of glass ceiling, I think, in the scientific world that has been created that very few want to jump through because, hell, they might not have that paycheck anymore. And that's why the biggest part about science that I find to be, you have to consider that science is purely funded by money. I mean, the only way we can do this.
For sure.
So you have to realize, like, we're only getting what big money is affording.
It's saying. I hear exactly what you're saying, but like it's just like the way I see it is that they're not going to totally bullshit us. Like they're going to give us like at least enough for us to be like, okay, this is tangible
for sure.
But there's a lot of misinformation in their shit, such as the lies about psychedelics, the lies about the government, the nature of reality, what have you.
Yes. Yeah, and I think most of the people that are in the system are good people. They're good people. These are not the Illuminati.
They're oblivious. They're completely oblivious.
Yeah, exactly. They don't know, and I don't think they're in the dark rooms with the the pedophiles and all that shit. I don't think that's really what's happening. Yeah, exactly. But not to say that isn't happening. That there really is that group of people too that are the ones funding these people to give us a limited view. I think that's more than anything. It's not that it's all shit that they're giving us. Oh, that's false because that comes from big money. No.
This is an important
The corporations are doing good things out there. They are funding good projects to do things. The government of China is limiting, and like terrible as it is doing a lot of like environmental rehabilitation projects, investing fucking huge money to reforest parts of China. Yeah. And that's cool. So we can't just use it all. Like we can't be painting the whole picture black and white because it's really gray. But we have to keep pushing forward and saying, well, yes, you're doing good here. I get that. But look what you're doing over here. There's this other part that we're not allowed to talk about. Yeah. And this is the part that gets you all freaked out and you start murdering people and that kind of shit when people start poking on the real thing and
it ends up becoming a new religion in and of itself, and that's the thing that people got to watch out. There's a couple traps during the awakening process. There's that atheist trap, and then there's the whole building a new religion out of your belief systems trap, man. These guys don't want to fucking listen to anything that's not what they know is the truth, bro. And it's a new religion now. For example, my arguments aren't just with atheists or scientists or religious people. It's with people who like legit think the earth is flat or legit think like, I'm working for the government because I made this YouTube channel to misinform everyone, despite the fact I'm literally showing.
Well, yeah, I see that all the time. Everyone's accusing the conspiracy. There is a conspiracy. There's a big fucking conspiracy. But what I'm finding is now we're in this phase where we overdo it. We overplay the conspiracy card. It's like anyone that's saying stuff that you don't agree that's outside of your sound bubble that you're living in now is CIA operative. It's like, oh, come on, motherfucker.
You know what that leads to? That leads to the same shit we saw during the Dark Ages when they were burning people alive for saying the earth wasn't flat.
Yeah. That's true, dude. Or even what happened here in America in the 50s, with the whole communism freak out. Anyone they could just throw you in jail. They were throwing anybody who opposed them in jail as communists.
The Japanese people during World War II, the communist fear during the whole Cold War, and now it's like a fear of Islam. So there's always an enemy. There's always a fucking enemy that they have to use. And that's how empires work. An empire cannot be an empire without an enemy for everyone to be united against. Yeah. Because why the fuck is anyone going to be subservient to a system that fucks them over and gives all the money to some rich asshole who doesn't give a shit about any of the people? You know what I mean?
Absolutely. And I think we are headed... There's going to be events in our future right now. I think we are on some level. This is a war of consciousness going on. And, I know on some other level there's no war going on and we rise above it. I get all that. But on some level there really is a war of consciousness going on. And there are events coming to the collective future, okay, that this is going to intensify. And, there could be events that take place that they're going to look at anybody who's talking about conspiracy and say, they're the ones that caused this event. And now anyone who talks like this, we're going to throw them in jail or whatever.
Anyone that has this symbol will be executed type shit. Like, you know what I mean?
There's not out of the possibility that enough events could take place that could be true, that scenario. Because right now, of course, you look at that and go, oh, come on, man, no one's going to arrest you because you got some tattoo. But that doesn't mean that there won't be events that change everything.
Yeah.
And that's why I think it's so essential that everyone who's awakening and needs to, on some level, have their voice be heard on where they stand, and to, we need to, enough of us, we all have to be doing our work big time right now, because as these events come, if enough of us can change the dialogue and help see through the bullshit, we can change it. It doesn't have to go down Armageddon mode. It can be, we can like change this thing. You can see it happening, I think, even in France right now. I think that the movement that's happening with the yellow jackets, the yellow vests, or whatever they're called, you can see like what can be accomplished by people who are decently level-headed. I know there's violence going on, and there's no way you can control a whole group. And of course, the powers that be will hire small groups of people to dress up like yellow vests and go fucking burn shit down and do all the crazy nutty stuff.
Like the shit that happened in Toronto G20.
Yeah, and they'll say this movement's violent, so we should have every right to put them down. And then the people don't want, burning all the buildings down. So anyway, I'm going down the rabbit hole with that. But I do think there needs to be enough of us waking up right now, because as these events come in the next 20 years, we have the potential to change this whole fucking thing. We do. We have the potential to eliminate this ruling class that's been like plaguing us for thousands of years. We have that potential now. We can, and we're connected. We can communicate instantly throughout the whole world. Yeah, instantly. This was, dude, to eliminate the ruling class before this technology existed was like, how there's no way you can even have like a global movement. There's just no way. Now we can. Yeah. We can say like, dude, this is what's going on in China and France and US and Argentina, and piece all the dots together, and the people, the conscious people of the world. If we have our voices heard enough, when this shit happens, people will go, oh yeah, you know what? There is something going on here. They are selling us a lie. You're right. We shouldn't be burning these people at the stake. Yeah, we're actually on the same team. The immigrants and the rednecks need to come together and go, we're all being fucked.
Yes.
We're all being fucked.
Because they're all being fucked by the same fucking people, making them fight each other for what?
Yeah.
Why? You know what I'm saying? Bro, just the fact that this conversation is taking place is huge for me, bro. Just so you know. Like, this is
me too, man.
This is like an analogy for what's happening. Like, it's how like lives converge, lives that otherwise would have never converged. You know what I mean? If it wasn't for this movement that's occurring, you know what I mean? Like, that we're all a part of. Like, we're just pieces of the grid, like points on that grid that are connecting as we speak. You know what I mean? Like, it's exciting. Like, I got to do some ayahuasca with you, man.
I've never done ayahuasca, so
neither have I.
Yeah, I haven't had the opportunity to. I got to admit, the whole puking thing is a little bit of an aversion for me, but I'm willing to do it. If it calls me, then I'll do it. I mean, psychedelics have been like so impactful in my journey. I mean, part of the reason you and I are having this conversation is because as in my early awakening period, this is back in like 2012, ironically.
Yeah, right.
Leaving my birth religion, leaving a previous marriage, like changing my entire world, and like, in a sense, starting over, and then going down this journey of plant medicine, psychedelics, whatever you want to call them, drugs. I don't even care what you want to call them. Okay, that's what they are. What they are. But experiencing psilocybin mushrooms and cannabis, and they've taken me on. They've just blasted me into like a new level of consciousness. And I came across a documentary that you did back, 5, 6 years ago, The Awakening of Gaia.
Yeah. Holy fuck. Yeah.
His documentary, The Awakening of Gaia, like just blew me away. And a group of us here in Arizona were just blown away by this thing we found on YouTube. And then I was like, who did this thing, dude? And I started trying to find like who did this. And I found David. David was the one guy behind it. And so then David and I became Facebook friends, several years ago, and have, we've always really appreciated each other, but we've never really, really connected until the last couple months when you really put out the Species with Amnesia, and you started your YouTube channel, and your YouTube channel is gaining so much momentum. It's really being seen because, dude, it's badass. I think people are going to come back and go, dude, have you seen that one of david-al-badri's like first interviews? No way.
Bro.
I feel like I found LeBron James in high school right here. This is LeBron James in high school. I want to be.
I feel the same way about you. Believe me about that, man. I feel like you're gonna be a social like conduit. You know what I mean? Like for a lot of people, You know what I mean? Like I view us as like conduits for like people who thought they were alone in this. You know what I mean? Like
Absolutely. That's kind
I
of what the Lords of Consciousness, the YouTube channel, and that's totally stemmed from the Lords of Consciousness Facebook group that I started back in early 2014. And it was just like a group of people who from all over the world. We were kind of awakening together, and so we've known each other from other groups, and you kind of like handpick certain people that you thought, oh,
so
these
cool.
guys would be cool in this. It's a small group of people even, and we've had multiple gatherings every year. We're on our 4th gathering. We come out to Arizona. We camp in the woods.
Holy crap!
Yeah, we've had we've had multiple gatherings. We had one
sounds
in Joshua
amazing.
Tree. It's it's usually like 25 to 35 people from all over, man. From we've had people from Toronto come. We've had people from Northern Ireland, and these kind of things, of these kind of communities of, hey, man, you're not alone. And this, dude, Lords of Consciousness is not the only one. There's been tons. This has been happening all over, and like of kind of soul tribes of people.
Yeah.
You don't get it so much in your local area, unfortunately. You don't walk into a bar and go, "Hey, man, did you see that Graham Hancock documentary?" And like,
imagine
you feel really alone. You probably feel like you're crazy. Your family rejects you. No one around you, and so these kind of groups have really been beneficial for people just to realize you're not alone in your thinking. This is happening to me as well. And
I gotta come out to one of those gatherings, man.
You most definitely. We're gonna be doing one in June, so come on, brother. David, we're gonna do this again. I mean, we have many conversations in our future.
I know
topics
you and me to talk to you over.
Yeah, we have many collaborations in our future as well, brother. But tell everyone where they can find you, and what your maybe even future creations that you have brewing in your lab right now.
Well, you can find me at Angry Hippie on any social media platform, but mainly YouTube. That's where I'm at. And I'm actually making a series deconstructing our society, specifically our society, and how we could implement social engineering in a way that, the same tactics that are being used against the people, we could use it to heal the people and reconstruct the entire blueprint of society. So it's a mini series, it's like 7 episodes. I'm working on that right now. But yeah, there's a bunch of little short episodes along the way, so just stay tuned for that, about the nature of reality and quantum physics and spirits and ghosts and all that.
David you are a filmmaker. Did you go to film school, or
I dropped in and dropped out. I mean?
Timothy Leary would be proud of you.
I learned exactly what I needed to learn, and I've been working on lots of screenplays, if you will. Like,
you're super talented, and your video editing. His videos are fantastic to watch. I mean, they're like eyegasms. I don't even know. You must have like incredible library of videos that you're pulling from to create these videos. But for a guy working and out of his bedroom, it's pretty badass. Way to go, man! And I really hope anyone who's heard this conversation will check out his stuff. You're going to have 50,000 subscribers, very quickly here. Okay. So we're just
manifesting that reality.
Yeah. And the reason we want you to have 50,000 subscribers, not because David's the coolest guy.
It's not about me. It's the fact that I'm connecting to all the people out there, being a conduit for the people, bro. It's never about me. I don't even care if I die and no one remembers my name. I don't give a shit. It's all about these ideas and how
there's abundance for all. I mean, really, we're trying to create a world where, in a sense, everybody's rich. But we're not tearing down the rainforest in order for us to be rich. I mean, we can be rich and have the rainforest. Everybody can be rich, okay? Right? And that's the world we want, where you're not doing it so that people will start sending you money and so you can become, Anyway, it's not like an ego trip. Like, truly, the information that both you and I are sharing is just trying to create greater awareness. And if this benefits you in your regular life, if somehow this information makes you a more patient person, makes you more open to your truer self, makes you a better brother, sister, mother, father, husband, wife. If this kind of stuff pushes the envelope and pushes the pendulum in your life individually, success. That's it, man. That's it.
Bro. That's what I'm saying. My measure of success is not the size of the wallet, or the size of the bank account. It's the size of the heart and how much you've done in your life that's fulfilled that heart. You know what I mean? That fulfilled that. Like, we as a species, I don't mean to drag on, but like, we have a hole in our heart, like what's been a heart, I should say. It's replaced by a void, and that void is being filled with all the lusts of the ego, the hungers of the ego, and what the ego yearns for. But the thing is, that void will always be a void, and it will only be filled if we reconnect ourselves to the earth and reconnect ourselves to the source. I believe the earth and the source are one and the same, because we're all interconnected from the universe. And I think the biggest thing for everyone to get that sense of wanting to like change the world is to have that emotional realization that you're part of something magnificent, you're part of something great. You're not tiny, you're not insignificant, you're literally a piece of a puzzle, a massive puzzle, and that piece is quintessential. You know what I mean?
Yeah, my favorite musician in the whole world is named Mike Love, and he always, one of his lyrics in his song is, "You are a piece in the puzzle of Zion," you know, and that
Wow,
is
look
so
at that.
true, man. We really are. Every one of us, like, we legit need you.
Mike Love. Okay.
Yeah, dude. Mike Love. David,
Check him out.
you're the
Clint,
man, and I can't wait to do this
you're the
again.
man.
No.
Bro,
You're
you're
the
the man.
man.
You. Oh, yeah.
Seriously, brother.
Thank
All
you
right.
so much for everything, man. I appreciate you.
Absolutely.